Hello from Nanook Lodge, and today's episode from a cookbook. I love doing these because it forces me to go and explore my cookbooks that I may not have touched in a while, and this is one of them. I got this cookbook, I don't know, almost 10 years ago. Jose Garces, the Latin Road Home. Lots of great recipes in here, and when I opened it up and started thumbing through it, I said, oh, tortilla soup, that's what I have to make. I love tortilla soup. It's often what I get when I go to Mexican restaurants, and it's all sorts of varieties of different kinds of soup. Sometimes the chicken is shredded, sometimes it's chunked, sometimes it comes with a lot of cheese, sometimes there's little cheese. But we're gonna make Jose Garces' version of it, or as close as we can get to it with what we have around. There'll be a few little changes, but I'm super excited to make this because one of the things he does differently that I don't think I've seen in a traditional place where I've been, American, Mexican restaurants, is we're gonna actually put the tortillas in the soup and then puree it and really get that tortilla flavor there. Oftentimes I just see it as kind of a watery chicken broth. So I'm kind of excited to try this version and show it to you. I hope it'll be great. Here I've got everything laid out for the tortilla soup. Some of it's gonna be for the soup and some of it's gonna be for the garnishes that we're gonna put in at the end. So we'll just kind of walk through it and talk about what might be different from what's in this book and the recipe and what's gonna be different in what we make. Jose Garces' recipe actually takes chicken thighs and he poaches them in some chicken broth and then takes them and shreds them. So he serves it with shredded chicken. I've seen shredded chicken, I've seen diced chicken, all sorts of different things in tortilla soup. I happen to have some leftover grilled chicken breasts that we're just gonna slice really thin, and we'll use those for the soup so that I don't have to go through the time and effort to poach chicken thighs. I'm just gonna use up some leftovers. We're gonna put some roasted garlic in there. We're gonna take these onions and tomatoes and we're gonna dry roast them in the oven to get a little bit of blackening and some roasted flavor to them. We're also going to make a paella chili paste. Simply soak these in a little bit of hot water after we toast them on the stove and then puree them up, and that is part of his recipe, so we're going to do that because it's going to develop a lot of flavor. His recipe calls for chipotle chilies canned in adobo. That's the little can of chipotle chilies you can find in the Mexican food section. But I find every time I use one of those, and then I've got a can of stuff that goes open and bad. So I've actually bought this chipotle chili paste in a tube. You can see I've used some of it, but we're going to use that because it just goes back in my fridge. Then I've got the chipotle chili paste anytime I need it. A little bit of olive oil for sauteing and also for frying our tortilla strips. We've got some tomato paste, some chicken broth. That'll be the base of all that. And then the chips. In Jose Garces' recipe book, he strongly recommends that you actually take these, fry your own chips, and then let them go stale. I don't have that kind of time. And honestly, Kirkland organic tortilla chips are awesome. So we're just going to use those instead of frying our own, because what I want to spend the time frying on is the garnish that gives the tortilla soup its crunch, right? Those little strips of tortillas. And so we're going to do that, but I want to not let these go stale. I want to make soup and eat it for dinner tonight. And then some of the other garnishes is some cheese. His recipe calls for queso fresco, which is a real light, mild white cheese. I've actually got this El Supremo Chihuahua quesadilla cheese, so it's going to melt a little differently, but I've got it on hand and I'm going to shred that or grate that, and we'll use that. We got some lime, some avocado, and finally some sour cream. That's where it's a little different as well. His recipe book calls for Mexican crema, and I think you can find that in a lot of Mexican sections. In the dairy case, if you've got something like that, but I'm just going to use sour cream. Very similar, and I've got sour cream. So that's all the ingredients that are going to go into the soup. This has got a couple of different steps to it, so we'll walk through each one separately, and then we'll put it all together, and we'll have some delicious dinner. Here we have some of the prep work ready to make the soup base part of it, except for the chicken. That sort of goes on as a garnish, but I want to show you what I did. So we've got the tortilla chips, we've got the roasted garlic, the chipotle paste, tomato paste, a little bit of oil for sauteing. I've cut the corn tortillas into strips, which we'll fry. We've roasted the onion and the tomatoes. And then the chicken, I just cut into thin little strips. It's gonna go in the soup at the end and get warmed up. And then we've got the paella peppers, which we're going to turn into a paella pepper paste, and I'll show you that. So we're ready to start making some soup. We're going to throw those in that cast iron skillet and just lightly toast these for a little bit till we can start to smell them. The cast iron skillet is smoking a little bit. We just want to start to bring out some of the flavor in those peppers. Warm them up. Smell them, so I'm going to flip them. Start to blister a little bit. Then we're just going to put them in a bowl with some water, and we're going to let them sit for about 10 minutes until they get nice and soft, and we can puree them in the bullet blender. Our onions, tomatoes, and garlic have been sauteing now for about 10 minutes, and they're nice and soft. We're going to add in our pastes. The tomato paste, the chipotle paste, or 1 chipotle pepper with adobo if that's what you're using, and then our pasilla pepper paste. So this was all run through the, softened, run through the magic bullet, and then I just kind of strained it to make sure I got the seeds and some of the pulp out. We're just gonna let that cook. Browning just a little bit is fine. It's gonna give it a lot of depth and flavor. That's why we take all of these steps. We're gonna let that cook there for, maybe about 5 minutes or so. And then we're gonna add the chicken stock. You can see what a nice, deep, brick red color this soup is going to be. Nothing like some of the soups I've had at the Mexican-American restaurants that I've been to, where it's mostly kind of a yellowish chicken broth. This is going to have so much flavor. It smells so good already. So this is going to now simmer for about 30 minutes, just to get it to reduce and let all the flavors melt together. And then we're going to add the tortilla chips, and then we'll put an immersion blender in, and we'll blend everything up. Meanwhile, we're going to fry the tortilla strips, so that'll be ready for the garnish. I got the oil nice and hot and then fried these in 3 different batches just to make sure that we didn't overwhelm the oil. You just fry them till they're nice and golden brown and crispy, and then I put them on a paper towel so that the paper towel would absorb the grease. Simmering for about 30 minutes. We are going to put in the tortilla chips and let them cook and soften. Want those to soften up, maybe about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get that immersion blender out. Wow, that smells amazing. And the tortillas help to thicken this up. So it's a thicker tortilla soup than I've ever been served in a restaurant, which is going to be so awesome. But we are ready to take a look at the garnishes and put together a bowl of soup. All our garnishes are ready to go. Here's the fried chips, the sliced chicken. I chopped the cilantro. It's not super fine. It's still got a little bit of the leafy definition to it. I shredded the cheese. Cut the limes into quartered wedges and then cut those each into half. I've got some diced avocado, and we've got the sour cream here as well, instead of the Mexican crema. So inspired by this, the soup is ready to go. One other thing that Jose Garces suggests in his cookbook is to strain this soup so it comes out really smooth. I'm not going to do that. I actually kind of like the texture of the little bit of the tortilla that's left in there, and it makes it just feel a little bit more hearty and a little bit more warm for fall. So I'm not going to strain it. If you want to, sure, go ahead, strain that out and make sure you don't have any big chunks in there, but that doesn't bother me at all. So that's the way I'm going to serve it. So if you're going to serve to a party or some guests, you can simply put out all of these ingredients and the garnishes, and then put the chicken in the bottom of the bowl, ladle the hot soup over the top, and let them garnish it however they want. I'm going to put it together for just Shelly and I for dinner, so I'm going to just make a couple bowls of soup. Here's how I like to put mine together. Put a little bit of the chicken right in the middle, like that. Pour the soup around the outside. You stir that all together. The chicken will get heated up. A little bit of cheese. Nice dollop of sour cream on the side. Some avocado chunks. A little bit of a fried tortilla for some crunch. And top it all off with just a little bit of cilantro. There we go. Inspired by Jose Garces' Latin Road Home, we've got chicken tortilla soup. Thanks for tuning in to Cooking at Nana Lodge.